Okay, so welcome everybody to this ballerina workshop. I'm going to be doing, or I'm going to attempt to do, two paintings today. That's the first one, and this is the second one. So this is a lovely image that Laurie S provided me with, and I just thought it was lovely. But this is perhaps a little bit simpler, and we'll probably get this finished better than that one. So I'm hoping you've all got these drawn out. Anybody not? Brilliant. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do with this, we're going to crack on with this right from the word go, is we are going to wet all of this paper, both back and front, front and back and front again. It's going to be sopping wet. Okay, so let's just start by doing that. So for this, I'm using a big brush, and I'm going to give you a little bit of information about brushes later on in the session when we may be having to wait for something to dry. So this is it's a size 18 Escoda brush, but I could use a mop brush for something like this. So there's a mop brush. Now, mop brushes and natural hair brushes do tend to hold more water, and I can feel that that is holding more water than the synthetic Escoda brush. So it's holding more than that one. So I'll carry on with that. And that's really the only thing I tend to use a mop brush for. Now, I'm making sure that is thoroughly wet all over. I have no areas where I can see any dry paper. And now I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to do the same on this side. Wet all that. And actually, doing it like this, it does help your paper not to buckle, because obviously if you're wetting it both sides, it doesn't know which way to go. So it will stop that buckling. And when you'll see when I come to turn it round again, it will tend to stick to my board. This is one of the reasons I don't stick or tape paper down ever, because when it buckles, I want to be able to tease it all back into shape. It's got a hair on it there. So that's all wet on that side. And you can see that's flattening out nicely now. So let's there may be a few bits of paint on, I think it might be brush out. Can you see a few bits of paint on there, but never mind. That's the only trouble, that you need to have a very, very clean board when you're doing something like this. So what I'm going to do now is I shall leave that to dry off a little bit, and quickly, while I'm waiting for you to finish yours, what I will do my other one, so that that's ready and waiting as well. I might do it even quicker, because if you spray them, you can get the water on even faster. I'm not bothered how wet it is. It needs to be fairly sopping wet. That's how I want it. So that's how yours needs to be as well, because this is a full wet in wet technique. This isn't just doing a wet in wet sky where you just sort of damp the paper sort of thing and then drop paint in. This is a different method altogether, because we're going to be working with it like this for some considerable time. And while the paper is fairly wet, and yeah, we're not going to work on it while it's sopping wet, we are going to let it dry off a little bit, and I'll try and show you when the moment is right to go back in. Because at the moment, these are both too wet. But doing it like this means that the inside of the paper gets thoroughly wet as well, and it stays wet longer to work with. When you've got very wet paper like this, the fear of going in and creating cauliflowers and making a mess of things lessens, because the paint will flow. Because the paper is so wet, it will flow much more easily, and you can get much better effects from it. So that's the second one that is thoroughly wet. So I'm just going to put that somewhere else. My board is quite wet as well at the moment. So I'll just wipe the board off a bit. And we'll just have a little chat about colour choices. Again, because Laurie L and Pam, I think you've done a live workshop with me, haven't you? Sorry, you don't have to come on, but I'll ask you again. But I think you have. That's it there that's not wet. Okay, so that is close on being ready for us to start painting. It's not now dripping wet. I don't know whether you can see that very easily. It's not exactly dripping, but it's still very wet. So we can leave it a little while longer. So for this, I've done different colour choices for the ones I've done previously. But basically I've used a pink, a blue and a yellow. And I thought I would try, instead of, I think I've used permanent rose, I thought I would try a magenta this time. When I'm choosing colours, I'm trying to choose colours that you're probably all going to have. So a lot of the Daniel Smith colours maybe that I have, you might not have, because one colour I really like is their iridescent blue. And I don't know whether a lot of you would have that colour. So I'm just trying to choose more generic colours that you're going to probably have or have something similar. So for this, I'm going to choose this, it's quinacridone magenta. So it's rather than it being on the purple side, it's more on a pink side. And I'm going to choose cadmium yellow. And I'm going to choose a phthalo turquoise. So by all means, you choose the same colours if you want to do, or choose your own colours, just 3. I might put in a little bit of burnt sienna. I'll see how we are when I come to the skin tones. I don't think adding that colour will make a huge difference, because the pink and the yellow will make, with a touch of the blue, will make a brownie colour anyway. So I don't think that will matter too much, because normally I would recommend that you only use, or once you start using the colours you've decided upon, you don't introduce anything else. For those who haven't done the workshops before, I recommend a limited palette, or 3 or maybe 4 colours. And I always say that you need to choose something which will give you a good dark, because if we're going to use all these colours to make all our other colours, because if you remember from the image, here's the image, I'm not going to do it like that. I'm going to do it as I want to do it and add the colours I want to add. But to keep some sort of colour harmony, then we need to keep our colours standard and not introduce other colours. So I wouldn't introduce to one of the ones that I've done. So on this one, I wouldn't suddenly introduce an orange to that. Can you see that wouldn't work? I wouldn't introduce a green, even though we've got the potential of a little bit of green maybe happening with the blue and the yellow mixing, but it wouldn't work. Okay, so working with a limited palette really takes away a lot of difficult decisions during a painting and helps you keep the colour harmony throughout the painting. Now, because we're using only 3 or 4 colours, we need one of those colours to be able to give us a good dark like we've got here. It's no good if we have all paler colours, because we're not going to get the contrast, and it's the depth of the colour that's going to give us the contrast. Okay, so let's start. So I'm going to use a fairly big brush, and I'm just going to start with an overall wash, and I'm just going to alter the colours as I see fit as I'm going along. So we'll start with a little bit of the pink. This is all random. It doesn't matter which colour you start with. It doesn't matter what you move on to. We just need to get going and start with any colour. So that's my magenta colour. And you'll see that the all the colours will mix and mingle nicely because I've got my paper already very wet. Let's have some of the blue now. What I'm going to try and do is avoid a little bit around her body. I don't want to actually go in too harshly around the skirt particularly, and around here because the top is actually white. So I don't want us to go too far into that. And if I don't like this purpley colour, I might just add a little bit of the pink as well, and not straying too far then away from my idea of just keeping it a limited palette. These streaky marks will all disappear, and I can add more water to this at this stage. It's not going to have any effect because all the paint is still very wet. So I can keep adding paint and water to this with my brush. I wouldn't normally do this. I would normally drop paint in, but I can still do this. And if you watch now, I can start to move the paint around just by tipping it. And then I start to get these lovely washes on the paper. Can you see that? That's the beauty of doing this wet in wet. Now, if I find that some of it's going into the ballerina, then I will take a very, very dry brush. Can you see I've dried that off? I've got a piece of tissue paper here. Dry it off, and I will just pick out, and I might just pick out the arms here. Can you see that? Oh, that's picked that out again. So I might just continue to do that. But actually that now is making quite a nice colour combination. I don't want it to go, you see that it's dropping over her body now, which again, I don't want. So let's come and pick that out. Dry brush. So every time it starts to move where I don't want it to, I can just come in and just pick it out. So I'm just going to move down now, and I will let some of it flow over the skirt, but I don't want too much. And already that's beginning to dry a little bit. It's very soon, it's going to be too dry. So that doesn't take very long, does it? Now, this is quite a difficult technique for you to all master. It's certainly not that easy to do this. So it may be that you're not too happy with what you've done actually in the class today, but it is something for you to practice and keep having a go at, because it's a really effective technique once you've got it going and you're able to do it. But you've got to keep your paper wet, and you can add, if it started to dry, so it's a little bit dry down here, what I will do is add some more water in the form of a spray. So I'm just going to start letting that flow again. See, that's dry there. Can you see wherever it's too dry, it'll form a hard edge, which we don't want. And I'm not too worried yet about the fact that it's gone over the dress or over the body, because again, I'll just go in with my wet brush technique, dry brush technique, sorry, and I'll pick it up. So don't be worried about that. That's a little bit, can you see that bit there is a little bit dark, so let's just get rid of some of that. I don't want that too dark. But I can also drop paint in, and I can throw paint and water at it. That is really quite dry there. That's incredible, it's dried so quickly. So I'll just pick this up here, around there. Pick this up around her face and her hair. And then I'm just going to pick this up in strokes around her skirt It doesn't matter whether I pick it all up. I'm not bothered about picking all of this up. So I'm drying the brush off and then coming in and picking it off. And this will all form and dry with soft edges because the paint's still quite wet. So can you see we're starting to get the form already? Let's just come in here as well. Along there. And now that needs to dry before we can do anything else to it. Okay, so what I will do now is I will do the same thing, which might be a help for you to watch it again. I don't know, but we'll do the same thing on the other one. And I'll be keeping my eye on this one to make sure that none of this paint flows back into where I don't want it. Let's just use another brush to dry that off a bit more to make sure it's not going to flow in, because I still want these areas to be white or light part of them. And I want the light to be catching. I want the light to be catching on her head and on her dress. Oh, sorry, on the bodice part of her dress. So we could always come back in afterwards, but I just want it to be kept white. So you can see there we've got the start of her skirt. Okay, so does anyone want to show me anything at this stage? No? And you all doing okay? So let us do the same thing now on this one. So I thought, for the sake of it being a bit easier, I thought I would probably do the same colours. And then you've got a comparison anyway, haven't you? So let's just come in here with the same colours. So this doesn't need to be too neat and tidy when you're just coming in to start with. Again, I'm not going to worry about going over anything at this stage because I will pick it all up afterwards. But I'm not going to go over the skirt and her head and her arms too much. Let's just and let's just let that flow down a little bit. This is the only time really that you can keep going in with your brush. Any other time it's too difficult for you to just keep going in and teasing the paint around with your brush, because you're just going to get cauliflowers and hard edges and effects that you really don't want. So this is the only time when everything is so sopping wet, because if it starts to get too dry and you go in with and your paint is too wet, then you'll get all sorts of cauliflowers forming and you won't be happy with what you've done. So that's what I'll let that just mingle down. So when I'm applying the paint, as I said to you before, it's very random. And what I'm doing is I'm not applying any paint of any particular colour for too much of a stretch on the paper. So I'm just keeping that variety there. I'm not letting it all, I'm not doing too much, and I'm not doing it, I'm trying not to get any lines happening. I want it all to be a random wash effect. And this is how you do that, to get random washes. and some of this is drying a little bit, so let's just, I always, especially for when you're working like this, always keep a spray bottle handy with you. There's a funny line developing there. I don't know what that's all about, so I'm just going to interrupt that. And then I'm just going to let this. So this is why I don't tape my paper, because I'm always moving it around. You could still move it around on the board, I expect, but I prefer just to move the paper around and then I can tease it all back into shape. Now that is developing a bit too hard and a bit too dark there, so let's just drop some water into that. So I'm looking around all the time at my painting and the wash and seeing how it's developing. And at this stage, I don't want hard lines developing. I want it to be a fairly smooth wash. So we're at the stage now where I can start again to pick up the around the head and along the arms and the hands. I did actually draw the hands on this one, but unless you've done a really good drawing of the hands, I'd recommend you just fade them out because they can so easily look clumsy. So her dress comes right up to there, so let's just again, I'm just creating a little bit of the form so that you can see where she starts and finishes. And we'll just do her legs as well, because the legs are actually white in the image. Just keep working on that a little bit because it's still a bit dark in parts. That to be too yellow there, a bit of a dark area there. And then when this is all dry, of course, we can come back in with more colour and effects that we can do on the skirts, because we want to create some movement on them. And I'm just going to do her bodice as well. I think it looks fairly white, and yes, it does look white in the image. So because that was a black and white image, we can just do it whatever colours we want. And we can extend the skirt as well if we want to. It doesn't have to stay as it is. And because it's quite wet, it's still flowing back into the body. But it'll be fine when it. What you can do is just leave it a little bit to go a little bit drier if it's still happening. And if you do that, then you'll be able to lift it out a bit better if it's a bit drier. When it's too wet, you can't dry it enough, and the paint, because it's so fluid and it just keeps moving into the area. So you've got to make sure it's pretty dry. There, that's moving around now, so that's okay. But the arms aren't quite dry yet. But we shall go over the arms anyway with some negative painting to highlight this area anyway. So I seem to have lost the head a bit. I can see it there now. Lost some of the drawing of the head. And that's the trouble. They're so delicate, a lot of ballet dancers, that, like I said before, you can end up both heads and arms looking very clumsy if you're not careful. Okay, so I think we'll probably leave that one as it is and just pick up a little bit more. And see how the other one's doing. So I might have to start to dry the other one. If it's not dry yet, I might have to dry it with a hairdryer. Does anyone want to show me anything at this stage? So if you do, just unmute yourselves and we can have a look at what you've done.
Okay, me, Judith, Lydia.
Yeah, let's have a look.
Oh.
Let's remove that. Let me just remove it from there. Yes, that's looking fine, Lydia. Yeah. What's underneath the ballerina? What's underneath? You're on mute, Lydia. You're muted. I can't hear you.
The other one is another little ballerina following the steps of the other.
Right, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, super. No problem. Okay. Anyone else?
I only did this one, but I'm trying to draw the other one real quick.
Well, you don't have to do that one.
I know, but I want to.
You want to, right? Okay. They've done it differently on.
It's very pale, though. Very pale.
Let me just. I'm just trying to get that off. There we go.
Oh.
Right, okay, Laurie, I've got you now. Let me just remove spotlight. Oops. Oh.
That's okay.
Right, okay, let's see. Now I want to remove it from mine. Remove. Right, okay. Spotlight.
Oh, look, it's very pale.
Oh, that's fine. No, that's fine. Yeah, it doesn't matter how pale it is at this stage. It's better to be pale than you've gone in too dark in places. So that's absolutely fine, Laurie. Yeah, super. Yeah.
Laurie Sutton.
Hang on, let's have a look. Let's just remove the spotlight from there. Right, Laurie.
Oops. So it's quite pale at the moment. Well,
yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. Is it dry yet, Laurie?
Yeah, it's quite dry. I think actually it dried too much probably before I put the paint on, so I had to.
Ah, right, okay.
Kind of go back and wet things. So
well, you can do. Is it completely dry yet?
Pretty much.
Is it? Right. So I mean, it shouldn't be completely dry yet. So it wasn't wet enough. Mine is not anywhere near dry yet.
No. Should we be? How dry should it be?
It shouldn't be dry yet if you've had it wet enough for the purpose of doing this exercise. But it needs to be dry for when we come to paint again.
So should we dry it with our hair dryers?
I think that's what I'm going to have to do. Otherwise, it's not going to be dry. It's not going to. We're not going to get done in time. So I shall dry.
So we need to get totally dry then.
Let me have a look, Dan. Let's have a look. Yes, that looks super. Yeah, nice soft washes. That's what we're looking for. Nice soft washes.
Thank you.
All right, Pam. Oh, that's lovely, Pam. Yeah, that's super. Are you pleased with that? Right, so let's put, anybody else? Is that everybody then? Yeah, okay, let's just put mine back on. Can you all see that now? So mine's just made a bit of a funny mark up there, but I'm not too bothered about that. So I'll just dry mine off now, and then if you want to be drying yours as well, and I'll come back when everything's dry. So let's just So mine's dry now, or almost dry. It's just still a bit damp there. You can tell whether your painting is still damp by if you touch it with the back of your hand, not the front of your hand, but the back of your hand. If it just feels normal to the touch, it's dry. If it feels a little bit cold, which mine does just a little bit there, it's not quite dry. Most times you would be able to paint with it at that level, but it could just be the wrong moment to go back in, so just be careful of that. Right, okay, so let us carry on with the actual painting bit now. This is where, what I might do is, as most of you will know, I don't generally mix paint in the palette, but just for the skin tone, I'll see if I can mix something with the colours I'm using. So I'm just taking a little bit of the magenta, mixing that there, a bit of the yellow, need a bit more yellow yet, so that you can see what I'm doing here. More yellow. That's a little bit too orangey. Let's just, orange and blue are complementary colours. Let's just add a teeny bit of blue. Now, I don't know whether you can see that, but that's only a tiny bit on the end of my brush, and it will just knock that back a little bit. That's too much. And we need a little bit more, perhaps a little bit more of the red in there. I don't know what that's going to look like as a skin colour. Let's just have a look. That's not too bad. So that's a reasonable skin colour. So we can use that, and we can just gently go around her face and around the arms areas and just see if we can get a first layer on her skin. Let me get my image, because I'm not going to paint all the back, because some of the back I want to keep very light, almost white. It's a good hint, if you see something that's light, it's quite good, a good idea to leave it white rather than paint it the colour it is, because that all adds to helping the contrast in your painting. So let's just, we'll just go around her face, because her face is generally, I think we'll just have that a teeny bit yellower. I'll just add a bit of yellow into it. And facial skin tones are always darker than you ever think they are. So I'm just going to come down and leave the tops of her arms. I'm not going to paint because they are quite light. And again, so I'll leave them white. Oops, and I've gone over her, I haven't painted that in, actually, marked that in, that's her. The top of her dress. So don't want a hard edge there, we'll just go in and soften that. And this can all be strengthened as we move on. So along here, it's quite dark. And then in the middle, it's almost white. So let's leave that white. And we've got a line down there, and we've got a darker bit here. It's quite light on the top there as well. So let's leave that white. We can always come back in if we decide we've left it too light. But these are all little tricks that will help you get the most impact from your painting. So creating light and pitching it against dark is one of the really good ways that you can get more impact. Now, I might just use a little bit of burnt sienna here and put it into the into this mix, because I want to do a hair, and her hair is a bit darker. So let's put a little bit of burnt sienna into that mix, which is underneath here. It's just a bit redder as well. I might put a little bit of the blue into that as well. Bit darker, okay. I'll just soften this edge here as well. So we'll just go into her hair. She's got a little band on here, so I'll leave that white. I mean, we might do it another colour when we come to finish off, but we'll leave that white for the time being. And I might come in a bit darker in her hair, but her hair's very light here as it goes into the bun, so we'll leave that white as well. So let's just do a little few streaks into it, and we'll just leave it white. And again, it's dark here, but the bun area on the top is white as well, so we'll leave that white as well. So can you see the effect that's having? It's just giving a lot more light and interest to what we're painting. And again, we can just go in with a few faint lines there. Okay. Now then, let's just, are you all right at the moment, or do you want me to pause a little bit?
Yes,
No?
pause, please.
You want a little pause?
Yes, please. It took a little while to get my skin tone right. Sorry, the colour.
Right, okay, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, so let's just move on, and we'll do a little bit of painting on the skirt bit now. So I'm picking the paint up a little bit neater, and my brush is drier. I'm not picking up that much paint, but my brush is drier. And what I want to do with this is not exactly a completely dry brush technique, but more of a dry brush technique. And I'm just going to swipe the brush along and into the background, and just a very loose stroke. So it's that sort of a stroke. Can you see? And I'll just come around again randomly around the skirt. So that's a bit of yellow I've got put on. So let's put a little bit more yellow on. But again, my brush wants to be fairly dry, and this will help give you movement in the skirt, because that's what I'm looking for anyway. I'm looking for a bit of movement. So let's change the colour now to the magenta. So again, the same principle. We can overlap a little bit. We can put some in there. And I'm not going over this bit because that bit is, I want it to stay white. And let's put a little bit of the blue in as well. So again, fairly dry brush. And I'm not bothered if it starts to mix. And I'm also using the flat of my brush rather than using the point. I want to keep the flat of the brush there. Let's put a little bit more yellow in. So I want to keep it fairly light and bright as well. And actually, I'm not sure I'm enjoying this magenta colour as much as the pink, if I'm honest. But I wouldn't know if I hadn't tried it, would I? Let's just put a bit more yellow in there. Need a bit more blue on this side. So again, sort of more of the flat of the brush. And I want to come down into the middle bit here because that was looking a bit blank. But then I'm going to just go in and drop some water in now, just soften some of it. But keeping that dry brush look as best I can. Okay. So that's looking okay, I think. And then if we go in with a smaller brush, I'm going to just put a few darker areas around here and buttons at the back. Let's go in with this here because it is quite, her body is quite dark there. I can mix it with a bit of the blue as well. And she's got these little buttons. So just soften a bit of that off to the background. And there are a few, it's a little bit darker on that one side of her dress. And some sort of creases down there as well. And it's quite a bit darker on this side, but I'm not going to make it too dark. And there's a few just creases on that side and down here as well. So we'll leave the dress just for the time being now. And what I'll do is while you're catching up, I'll do a similar treatment on this. I did dry that off at the same time. It isn't quite dry, but it'll probably be all right. So let's just come in. I might just do her arms in the similar treatment to the other one. I might just not actually do her hands. Let's get the image. And I'm going to try and leave the straps white. I can't really see my drawing here. Oh, there it is. Let's leave the straps white. Face comes down like that. I'm having to turn this away because I can't see the I can't see my drawing underneath it. Right, and she's got much darker hair, so I'll colour that in. And I'll come back and do her hair a bit darker later. Let's just do this other arm. And again, we'll try and leave a little bit of the arm whiter on the top so that we can get that, because we're going to come in a lot darker around around the body area. Let's just lighten that off. so we've got that on that side. So again, now we just need to do this treatment on her, on the dress, on the skirt. Again, exactly like we did before. Go in with a fairly dry brush and bit of yellow in. Again, bottom of the brush, the flat of the brush. So I've got a vague outline as to where her skirt is, but I'm not bothered if I go over that area. I'm not bothered if it doesn't have to be exactly the same shape as I can see on here. I've just got to give an impression, because that's what this sort of watercolour painting is all about. It's just giving an impression of something. It's not meant to be a replica of that particular ballerina. If I was doing a realistic painting, then yes, it would be, but I'm not. I'm just giving an impression. All I want to do is paint a ballerina and paint one in a loose fashion. Put a bit more blue up there. Dry brush. Just drop off a bit of pink in there. And that leg here is quite dark behind the other ones, so we'll put a little bit of mixed of the magenta and the turquoise in there, because that's quite dark. And we'll come in behind there and we'll leave this other one white. You'll be able to see, because we're using the same colours. We will come in a bit darker under here as well, but we're using the same colours, so they'll all blend in nicely together. And then this is darker down here as well. I'll just pick that other bit up as well. Let's soften that off to the front of the leg, and that will just give that leg a bit more shape. What is there? So we'll come back into this front leg and just darken it a little bit on this underside, and then we'll put the shoes in as well. Okay, so that's where we've got to with that one. Anyone want any help? No? You're all right with that then? Right, Cindy, what's the matter?
Well, I don't think that I went fast enough, and you see all these marks everywhere.
Let me have a look.
See,
Could you hold it up a little bit? Yeah.
see my background?
Yeah, yeah, but that's not how your background's going to finish. We're going to add
Okay.
more background. So the hair on the little girl's beautiful. So you've done a really nice job on that. What colours have you used, Cindy?
I used the turquoise,
Yeah.
and the magenta,
Yeah,
and quinacridone gold.
right.
Yeah.
So on my screen, have those colours mixed a lot, and have they dulled down quite a lot for you?
Yes, they did. I think I overmixed them maybe or something.
Yes. Well, yes, and that's why it was important to keep the dry brush on that rather than adding too much water to them. And again, not mixing them anywhere, but letting them mix on the paper as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but you can add a little bit, once that's all dry, we can brighten it up again, because once we put in more of the background around the head and the face, then, you know, maybe it will rescue it a little bit, Cindy. And you can put some brighter colours into it, maybe. You know, use the colours neat and a bit brighter, yeah?
Yeah, I think I was heavy-handed at mixing the colors and
Yeah.
I just
But you'll get the recording to be able to do it again, won't you?
Yeah, yes.
Would anyone else like to show me anything?
I will.
Sorry, I'm just going to Pam. I won't be a minute.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Won't be a minute.
Okay.
Pam, could you unmute yourself, please?
Have a go.
Wonderful. Oh, that's looking very nice, Pam. Yes. Yeah, that's super. Are you pleased with that?
I'm very good. It seems a little bit stripy, but
Yeah.
but it's all right. I'm happy with it.
On your right hand side, as you look at it, I would also take on your, as you look at your paper on the right, that side, I'd also take the skirt out a little bit farther that way. Yeah, just a little bit further out that way. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Right, Diane.
Yes, mine is a little stripy too.
Oh, yes, right. Okay, so you've not used, to the right of your ballerina, that little bit there that you've got is fine, but you've not used your brush dry enough.
Okay.
So you need to have it so that it's just hitting over the valley, over the hills of the paper, and it's not catching everywhere. So it's a dry brush technique.
Okay. All right. So if I go over it a little bit, will it help?
Yes, you could do. You could do. Yes, try. You could try it. Yes. Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, Laurie Sutton.
Right, Laurie.
So again, I think, well,
That's coming along, Laurie.
So
Yeah.
I'm not very happy with the like the turquoise is such a sort of dark colour, and I don't like the sort of like the liney bits on the skirt. How can I
where it's mixed with the yellow? Did you say limey bits?
Yeah, the
or
sort of
liney bits.
like the liney bits, see, on the turquoise. So I feel like they're too dark, but I don't know how to lift them out without.
Well, you could, if you've used Farlow turquoise, of course, it's a staining colour.
Yes.
You could maybe just try lifting it with a little bit of you know, a sponge,
Okay.
Magic sponge, and just see. It may not lift it out completely, but it might lift the bulk of the lines out. The technique of doing this needs to be a bit sketchier than that, a bit less than that, so that you're keeping some of the white of the paper rather than filling it all in.
Yeah.
But you could just try, you know, with let me just show you. Oops, done that wrong. Right. Right, so can you see mine's still quite light and airy?
It's lovely.
So you use your magic sponge thing. So I've just wet mine and just do that with it. Just make some marks like that, which is the marks I've made on mine in the first place. So just try and come in with your, so on this piece of paper maybe, like that. Can you see that is lifting some now?
Yes, I can see that. Yeah, that's,
See
yeah.
that? So that might just rescue it enough for you to feel a bit happier and lift enough. So again, that will, this is the turquoise I've used on here. So that is lifting. That's lifted it maybe enough for you to feel a bit happier with it. So it will lift a little bit.
Great.
So can you
Okay.
see you've got that effect again there, haven't you?
Yes, yeah, I can see
It's
that. I
a
like that.
quick, it's a quick sort of movement like that, and that's the movement with your brush as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Super. Thanks, Jean.
Anybody else? Okay, so shall I carry on a little bit now? Are we all right? I'll move on. So what we're going to do now is we are going to highlight this area, because that's, and I didn't say this in the email, but I have moved her slightly. Well, she is off centre in the image actually, so slightly off centre. So her head, it's not exactly in the top third, but it's not far off. But at the moment, we've got some lovely light catching on her body, and we need to just make that a little bit more obvious. So let's go in with some, where are my other brushes? I got all these brushes out to show you, and I don't, oh, there it is, right. So let's come in, and I want to highlight this area around here. Now, you only need to go in to the body and brush it away. We only need it to be dark in the, you know, only a couple of centimetres, if that, close to the body to get the effect we're looking for. So we don't need to go in too far, but we do need to capitalise on these areas, these little areas, just to make sure we've got some nice contrast. So let's just come in. So there's an edge around there. And this quinacridone magenta is quite a deep colour as well. So I've got the values that I want in there. It doesn't need to be a sort of 10, you know, values. I think in the States, I'm not sure whether they go from 1 to 10 lighter to dark, or 1 to 10 darker to light. In the UK, it's 1 to 10 light to dark. But anyway, so we'll put a little bit of the turquoise in as well, just to add a bit of variety to the colour. And we'll just come around here, and we'll just sort of colour in this little bit here. I'm not going to go too far with it because I don't want it to be dark too near, too far away. Let's just wash that out a little bit. And we may decide to come in a little bit darker. We might just do a little bit of, show a little bit of the skirt there as well. Okay, so let's fade that away. We can still come in and do this darker again, but can you see the impact that's having already? So let's come around the head again. So I'm obviously using this upside down. Can try with a little bit of the turquoise. We can use any of our colours for this, as long as they're ones which will give us a dark. But I tend to like to mix them rather than just having a flat colour of any one thing on there. And we need to come around here and just around that head there, where we've got some light. And I think you'll see when I'll turn it round that we've got quite some nice contrast going on there. And the same on the tops of her arms. And just wash that all away. Maybe bring a little bit of the yellow into it there as well. So wash that away. You see just faint yellow, nothing much, just a subtle colour on. Oh, what I've done there. That's where I need the magic sponge. Wonderful things, aren't they? So I just want to come around here and soften that. A bigger brush there now. Oh, good having all these brushes around. They just mean I can't find the one I'm looking for. So I'm just taking that out right into the background. Smooth that right there. And again, I can still come in darker if I choose to do. Let's see how that's looking. Yeah. So can you see that's just getting a little bit of impact around it? So we need to do the same on this side. So let's get, again, some more of the magenta, and we'll come in around here. Drop a little bit of the blue in as well. Pull this out. And then around the bottom part of her face. And the top of that arm. And we'll just pull that out as well. So I'm just going to blend all this in to the, and you see this, I'm going to just take that out as well. Where her arms, I don't want her arms just to finish abruptly like that. I can put a little bit of colour into there and just leave that out. So let's just pull this around here. And just blend that out so that you can't really see where we've been. Okay. Now along here, it's a little bit darker. There are some shadows, and all the time we are looking to increase our contrast. And you'll see when I just do this that it again brings a little bit more interest around it. So I'm just going to come in along a line here where there's a bit of a shadow. And there. I'm not going to leave it like that, such a hard line. I'm just going to come in behind it and just soften it. But I think you can see again that that is just adding to our contrast, which is what we want. I'm using the same colours that I've used. You see that now? Let's just give them a little bit of, you see those like just random strokes have helped just define her back a little bit and giving a little bit of detail to her back. So now we can make her hair a little bit darker, and I will go back in. I'll just get a little bit of burnt sienna for this, and I will put a little bit of turquoise in there. So we haven't used much of another colour, but we want it a bit darker. That's a bit brown. So I just want her hair a little bit darker. So we'll just come in here. Oh, I've got it bleeding there. That's a mistake. Get rid of that when it dries a little bit more. So I just wanted a little bit more drama in her hair. We'll just put her eyebrow in, her eye. And she's just got her lips here. And her ears here. And then she is a little bit darker along here. Let's just go in a little bit darker there. Let's see if I can do anything about this. It might be better leaving it till it's a bit drier. I've just gone in with a very dry brush there. If you ever want to correct anything, go in with a very dry brush. You have a better chance of correcting it then. And we'll just make her little headband pinky colour. So I think she's almost done. What I might do is put a little bit of white in it, white paint. But I'll just go on and finish this one. And I'll use that same mix for her hair. That's quite dark because her hair is dark, but she's not, her hair is, it's sort of braided and things, but I'm just going to do it dark, and we'll just leave a little area for her headdress. That little area there. Just coming around here and down her back. And again, we can just put a little bit of highlight in her around the straps. Sorry, not highlight, but a shadow around the straps. And on her back as well. And along this area at the front. And we'll just do a little bit of detail on this first leg, this front leg. So it's a little bit darker. So we'll put a little bit of dark underneath her skirt area, and it's a little bit darker at the back than at the front. A bit more shape in it along that bottom end. Soften the edges. And we'll make her ballet shoes. We'll do those a pinky colour. This magenta colour. Again, that will tie in with the rest of the painting. So painting like this, it's all about just making something look like something without adding too much detail. That's what we're looking for. We don't want it to be too, we're not trying to do a photographic study of something. We're just trying to give an impression. When that's dry, we'll go in and darken that. We need to put a bit of a dark area in there. So now we need to just shape that face a little bit. I'll have to do that with the painting behind it. So we'll come in and we'll paint behind her face. Do that upside down. So we'll just come in with similar colours again. So I've lost the shape of her face. This is why it's really hard with ballerinas. So let's just come in there like that. And the nose goes out all like that. That's her headdress. And we'll just come down here. I'll have to see what this looks like when I look at it. Just pull that in a bit there. Okay. The turquoise in it as well. Might have to just do something with the shape of her face when I've finished. But around the top of this arm now. More pink in that area. And we'll bring a little bit of the yellow into that, a bit more of the yellow into this one, because this is a bit darker. I'm using a bit more colour on this one, so just need to go in this area here. Fairly carefully as you're going into these little spaces, because we're defining the shape negatively, aren't we? Painted the top of the skirt. Let's just maybe to make that a little bit more uneven. And we've painted the bottom of the arm, so we need to do that a bit more carefully. And down here. Try a bit of yellow in there. The turquoise. You can see how I've extended the background again a bit here, and I've made more background, darkened some of it off. Quite like that yellow added in there. It's a bit strong, so let's just. Do you see I just dropped some water into that there? Let's just try and add a bit more interest into that little bit. Oh, that's a bit flat. More yellow in there. See what a little bit of yellow looks like dropped in there. Might just lift that a bit as well. A bit in there. Now, I didn't like this bit in the background, so let's see if we can just do a bit of something with that and bring a bit more paint into that area so that it doesn't look as obvious. So again, I'm just going to bring the background all the way around so that it's not too obvious where we started and finished it. So all this is doing is just highlighting around her head. And we can, as well on this one, we can just come in a little bit and do a little bit of dark underneath as well. And just paint a little bit of the skirt negatively under there. Coming into here a little bit. There's a red as well, pink as well. Again, let's wash that away. I don't know that I want to go all the way around, but I feel now it needs something on this side as well, so we can also just put a little bit around there, maybe not quite as far along there. Maybe just put a little bit underneath here. So I've got some turquoise in there already, so let's put a bit of the magenta in there. around there, put a bit more of the turquoise there. And also, I need to just come in a little bit darker around there, because when I was picking out the white bit for the legs, I think I've lost a bit too much here. So I just want to come in here and pale, with a little bit of pale colour around there. And then we just need to brand that as well, her foot. Otherwise she just looks like she's floating. You see, that's all you need to do. And we'll also put this really dark area that's on her shoe, ballet pump. That's fine. Just thinking I need a bit more of the pink in there. Looking at it, let's drop some pink in. A bit more there as well. It just felt like it needed to be a bit more pink. I just need to take that out there as well. So just a bit more here. Sometimes you can see it better as well when it's upside down where it needs it. Let that dry for a bit now. I need this needs to be darker on her hair area, and we also need to put her features in as well. And we need to do with this one anything. You know, for those of you who aren't sure about this, I think we could actually come in and put a bit more on the dress now, looking at it now. Now it's completely dry. So if you want to have a look at this technique again, it's quite a big brush. It's fairly dry. There's not a huge amount of paint on it, and it's just a sweeping action like this. Can you see that? So again, let's go in with some yellow again, fairly dry brush, and and it doesn't matter if I go over some of these, if I just do it in a sweeping action, this will just brighten this up a little bit, especially with some yellow. Yellow often just really brightens a painting up. Can you see that, how it's brightening it up? I mean, there's a danger that you might just do too much of this, and but it's all a learning curve for next time, isn't it? Let's put a little bit more of the magenta around. And we could just come in here and define a little bit of the skirt if we wanted to. So we could just just coming very gently along here, say, to just give a little bit of an impression that the skirt's coming down there. Doesn't need to be too much, and can put a little bit of turquoise. Maybe a little bit at the top there. We can define it positively as well. So we could come down like this. We could do a little bit on this side. So we could come down negatively. Again, just wash that all away. But just giving a little bit of a shape to the dress there, the skirt there. Like that, really. Sometimes just giving it a little impression and a ghost of something. And we could come in a bit darker under here. There is a leg there, but it looks to be in a funny position to me, actually, that leg. So let's just come in a bit darker with that underneath the skirt. And if we don't like it or it's a bit too much, we can just interrupt those lines and just give a little bit of an impression. I might just come in a little bit darker under there. Just defining that a bit more. I don't want to go too far with it. So I think I'll call her finished. Does anyone want to show me anything? No? Are you all happy? How are you all doing? Somebody left. Sally's gone. Laurie, want to show me something? Let me.
Well, I'm not happy because I always I can't leave well enough alone.
No, that's a watercolor painter's nightmare, isn't it?
Yeah, because I learned oil, and then you can always scrape that away. But
right.
In this person, the faces, forget it, but it looks more like a grown-up than a child, so I'm not sure. I thought, well, her face needs to be fatter, and then the wheels fell off the wagon there. But
did you trace it in the first instance, or did you draw it?
I drew it.
You drew it, okay. So really, for something like this, the ballerinas are really hard, and I didn't draw mine, I traced it. And the reason for that, and children are hard, because children's proportions are completely different to adult proportions. Yes. What I think you need to do with that is you've not got any values on it yet.
Yeah, it's not as
no. It needs right. So when you're going in behind the bodice, if you were to take a photograph of that in black and white, take a photograph, convert it into black and white, you won't see a big distinction in value.
Yeah, you're right.
And that's what we're looking for. And that could make a huge difference to that painting if you can add some values.
Just like this whole, I try to make it go away, and I didn't leave enough white. So, no, I know.
But have you got any of this magic sponge?
Yes, and I tried, and I started peeling the paper.
So, did it? Oh,
Is it
right.
supposed to be wet when you do
Yes,
it? Or
yes, it's wet. Yeah.
the
you have
sponge
to
or
have
the
it-
paper or both?
The paper's meant to be dry,
Okay, and the sponge is
the
wet.
sponge is wet.
Okay,
Okay.
we'll try that. So, you know, everything's a learning thing.
Oh, it
Yeah.
is, most definitely.
Because I didn't ever know about the spraying the back. That's cool.
Well, that's
it's
if you
wet.
want a real wet in wet.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it. Because you need, sometimes if you're working something for quite a long time, I mean, you'll see artists online and they're working with a painting for a long time, and they need to have it wet enough for the paint to still move around, and you get some beautiful effects doing it.
Yeah.
So
Not really.
I mean, if you, the way I paint, Laurie, is probably different to anybody else that you've seen. Because I mix paint on the paper rather than in the palette.
Yeah.
I do have a video which you can view at, you know, or you can buy it at another time, and it's loosening up, how to loosen up, and how I paint, and how I add colour, and how I mix colour. So that might be useful for you moving forward if you want to talk about. Anyone else want to show me anything? Don't
Sure,
forget.
I will.
Right, sorry, Lydia, this
Nope.
is Diane.
Okay.
Diane, you're muted, so let me just go to Diane first.
Okay,
So I'll
I'm
come back.
okay.
here it is.
So I fiddled too much too at the bottom, but
Oh, but the
Oh,
colours.
that's lovely.
Let me just have a look. Hang on. Let me take the spotlight off that. Yeah. Okay. Right. Where are we?
I didn't put the brush down soon enough.
You didn't do what? You didn't put.
I said I didn't stop. I didn't stop soon enough.
But you certainly, you know, those lines are looking better.
Yeah.
You could still go a little bit darker around the bodice.
Okay. That's always hard. That's always difficult for me.
Yes, but you
I
could
think
go.
I think I am, and that I'm not.
Yes. Well, you have to use really neat paint.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, almost
Yes.
out of the tube.
Right. Okay.
And then you'll get the depth of colour. But actually your colours there look lovely, and you've kept them nice and fresh. So if you can get a little bit more value in that, then you've done a super job on that.
All right. Thank you very much. This is fun.
Good. Right. Let's just. Anyone
Okay,
else?
I'll go, Lydia.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Oh, that's nice. Right. What's striking me about that, Lydia, is can you see underneath the back ballerina? There's a straight line under her.
Oh, in her hair. It's supposed to be a rose.
No, not in her hair. No, underneath her dress. And
oh, yes.
I would try and interrupt that, because that's what I'm seeing, and it's splitting your painting in half.
Okay, like with a shadow. That was supposedly my shadow.
But can you see it? It's the back ballerina. It's at the bottom of her dress as it comes to the waist of the other ballerina.
The bottom of,
the back ballerina, the top one. Under her dress. I would try and interrupt that line, and on the other side as well.
Interrupt the line.
Yes, and on the other side of the front ballerina.
Okay. So I was just sort of indicating where her skirts starts, and then they were staggered, but I guess I didn't do it correctly.
But because we're trying to get a sort of really loose feel to these skirts, by putting a straight line across the bottom of it, you're just stopping it, and you're stopping the flow skirt.
Okay, I'll soften it.
And I'd also soften on the other side of the front ballerina as well, because that line's going straight across your painting.
Okay.
Can you see what I
Good.
mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Laurie Sutton.
Laurie?
I lost internet. Oh, sorry.
Ah, that's looking better, isn't it?
Yeah, I managed to
Oh,
get
it's lovely.
managed to lift those the turquoise out of the skirt. You know, those lines that I wasn't happy with, as you suggested with the magic sponge.
Yeah, that's looking a lot better. Yeah.
I'm not sure about losing her hands. I feel like
Well, that's entirely up to you. I do that because they're so hard to paint.
yeah, I want to lose her hands.
Hey?
I want to lose her hands to make it easier, but I feel like I've got a blob, two blobs. But
Well, it doesn't look like that from here, but I can't, you know, I mean, on the screen, there are limitations to what you can see, aren't there? But it doesn't look like that on here. And, you know, I'd make her little tiara thing a little bit more prominent.
Okay.
Because it's just blending into her hair at the moment.
Yeah.
And I would possibly make around the bottom of the bodice a little bit darker.
Right, okay.
And then I think you're more or less finished with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Well,
Okay.
you've rescued it, Laurie.
Yeah, with your advice, thank you very much. You always get me to a rescue, thank you.
Well, that's the beauty of being on the live ones, isn't it? That you can
Absolutely
catch somebody beforehand. I don't know where Sally's gone. She seems to have disappeared.
Oh, that's a shame. I was looking forward to seeing her.
Yeah. Well, she was here to start with, but then she disappeared. Anyway, how are you doing, Cindy?
I lost internet connection.
Oh, right.
So I didn't hear anything about the bottom half of the drawing. That's not mine.
No. Is that Sally speaking?
No, it's Pam.
It's Pam. Right. Okay. Right. So no, I'm just looking at Cindy's. Right. Okay. So yes, your colours are looking a little bit brighter now, Cindy.
Okay.
You can still use more value around the top half of the ballerina.
Yeah, and I've got these these marks.
Yeah, I can see what you mean. Can you use the magic sponge on those?
That's what I'll do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Did you leave the leg out, the foot?
No, I didn't actually, because I didn't think it's in a very good spot actually, so I didn't do. I've just sort of fussed around it.
Okay. Thank you.
So Pam, sorry, did you?
Yeah, I lost internet connection when I started talking about filling in at the bottom. So
that's lovely, Pam.
That. So I need to do something.
You know, I wouldn't bother anything with that.
No,
I wouldn't. No, I think it's looking lovely. You've kept the colours nice and bright, haven't you?
Yeah. That's me.
Are you pleased with that?
I am really pleased. Absolutely. Because I've never done a ballerina before.
No.
So, yeah.
And of course now you've got the video for the second one.
Yeah.
So you can always have a go at that, but you can carry it. You can have another go at this now.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I'll keep going until I get it right.
Yeah, you could, you know, around the bodice. I know you've done a little bit of it. You could perhaps as you're looking at it on the left-hand side.
Yeah.
I might define around her shoulder bit a bit more, like you've done on the other side. Just turn it around and have a look, and you'll see what I mean.
Yeah.
I might do that a little bit. Yes, on that. Yeah. No, on the side. No, the other side.
Yeah, that one.
Side, yeah. By her shoulder.
Yeah.
Not her arm, her shoulder side.
Yeah.
Yeah. and you could also just define the buttons a little bit more, because her bodice is just looking a little bit lost.
Yeah.
So you could actually really make something more of the bodice area.
Right.
Nice.
Okay. Thank you.
Right. Anybody else? Have we done? Has everybody shown me everything? So I think we're more or less finished now. Let's see. Oh, I've just still got to do a bit on this, and her arm's just let's just get rid of that paint that's coming on her arm. It's a bit too wet, actually. I'm just going to come in and paint her eye. Got to be really delicate with ballerinas. We'll just do a little bit more on her hair. I want to just make that a little bit more defined. Darker, that's better. That's coming more or less with the turquoise. But do a bit more brown in it, but it's looking a bit better now that she's a bit darker. I'm not going to go right to the outside there because it's still wet there. Put a little bit of pink in that as well. Just go there a bit again. Fine like that. And oh yes, I did say I might just go in and put a bit of white paint in, didn't I? Go in a bit darker here. Where her bodice sits there. Let's just highlight that for everyone. Just come in quite a bit darker under there. That really is quite dark in the image. Really, see, because that was a black and white image as well, all I'm looking for when I'm painting that is I'm just looking for the values, because I've got nothing to tell me what the colours are. So all I can look for is the values. And we'll just go a little bit darker underneath this bit here. That's it. Let's pull that down a bit. And soften that, because I don't want that. Well, I think she's more or less done now as well. I might just give her a little pink tiara as well. And on this one, we can put some white on it. So this is Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White, and it's really quite good. And we can just come in and put a few swirly marks on if we want to. You don't have to do this. But it's just lifting the skirt a bit as well. I think I did some dots on it on one of them. but it's quite nice to just add a little bit of white into things. Quite like adding white to things. So I think we'll call that one done. Keep saying that, don't I? Sit on your hands. And you could do the same with the this one as well. You could put some. See, I think I prefer the way the colours have turned out better in that one, but it's just I think because I've gone in a bit darker. Anyway, so I think that's probably it. Anyone anything else to show me? No? Okay.
This was so much fun.
Good, I'm glad you've enjoyed it. And of course, you've got a lot to work with now, haven't you?
Yes.
Yes, this was lovely.
Oh, good.
Thank you, really enjoyed that.
I always
Right.
consider my classwork just the